Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Join with Vice Mayor Guthrie in the pledge to our flag and country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please, for our prayer.
God, we come in prayer. You oversee us in Guthrie, Oklahoma. We pray that you would bless us for your glory. May you grow this city for your people. May you guide us, keep us from evil, help us to not cause others pain. We pray that you will make us a source of help, hope, and love for Guthrie, Oklahoma. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. As always, excellent. Call to order then our City Council meeting of December 17th. Second item on the agenda is public comments, community announcements, and recognitions. I have one identifier that would like to speak on an issue that's on the agenda. The third item on the agenda is consent agenda items A through G. A is the City Council minutes of December 3rd. B is the approval of the fiscal year 24 year-end budget amendments number 5, which affects the GPWA fund, the grant fund, the capital equipment fund, wastewater treatment plant fund, and the utility deposit fund. Item C is the approval of payment invoice number 3 for $30,875 to GH2 Architects for Highland Park Pool Project. Item D is a payment of invoice for $8,180.70 to Myers Engineering for ADA accessible intersection and sidewalk. Motion then to approve consent agenda items A through G.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions of any of those? Submit your votes then, please. Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval for consent agenda items A through G. Item number 4 is items removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Item number 5, presentation by the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments concerning the Regional Safety Action Plan. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be short. The what?
Well, I said, would you introduce our guest?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, we have John Sharp here, who is the ACOG Executive Director. They had a grant for a regional action plan or safety action plan, same grant type that we had for our comprehensive action plan. They were recently just got done with their plan, and I think it's been adopted. If not, he'll let you know, but he's going to go over what they had done for the region and some of the things that they found from a region perspective. So with that, John, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Sharp, glad to have you here.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council and citizens of Guthrie. I think we have a PowerPoint. Yes, we do. That's even better. Awesome.
That's a good start.
I don't have to make it up. All right. So as Dan said, we took this to our board on November the 14th. This process has been about 9 months or so. So you guys are doing a community safety and action plan. It's the same thing. You're just looking at it from a city standpoint. ACOG looked at the whole region, and then Oklahoma City is doing a specific one for them as well. So just wanted to kind of pass that on. And we're going to try and go forward. And let's go that way. All right, we got it. So give you an overview of the timeline, project overview, public engagement overview, high injury network, that you're going to see that a little bit. Study corridors and countermeasures, policy recommendations, and next steps. So we hired Kimley Horn in the fall of 2023. They started work in January, and these are kind of the steps they went through. It's about an 11-month process. We understand you've already started, and you're looking at about an April-May timeframe to finish up and bring it to the council. We had a safety launch, which was like a group of folks in the region that were interested in this type of work. We got together and talked to them about it and asked them some questions at the time. We had a regional safety summit that followed that up. Then we had a number of different public outreach and workshops, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. And then we had a draft that we took to our committees and a final in November. So this is kind of a national push from the federal highway folks. It's a Vision Zero. It's a strategy to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, equitable mobility for all. So this is something that's going on around the country. The feds provided 100% funding, which is very rare. Usually you have to do a local match. So we were lucky to get that. And so we've worked forward on this. One of the things we kind of wanted to talk about on some of these items on the right, economic benefits. One of the things we have some issues with is car insurance. In case you didn't know, car insurance tends to go up. And if you have a lot of accidents or crashes, as they're really called, then obviously your insurance rates go up. So that's something that we obviously want to look at, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So this was a team effort from a regional standpoint. We invited all the cities and local communities and public to come to these meetings. But it's really a commitment of folks in your community to get this done. They're set up a planning structure whereby there's a lot of discussion, safety analysis, engagement with people that are interested in this sort of things, like school districts with school folks moving around, your commercial districts where you have a lot of people walking across the street and so forth. Your town is one of the rare ones in Oklahoma in that you have a lot of pedestrian traffic back and forth the roads, so this is a big deal. Looking at all the folks that could be involved here, given the fact that you have folks that might be walking in your town that are kids, so hopefully their parents are holding their hand. But then also, as we get a little older, we're helping our 80 and 85-year-old folks around too, so we have to really look at everybody in this. So I wanted to kind of move on a little bit further. So this is the mission statement that we came up with. I assume you guys have got one very similar. All people deserve to live without the devastating effects of severe injuries and fatal crashes in our region. The ACOG Regional Safety Action Plan aims to promote a culture of safety by implementing policies, educating and engaging the public, and involving infrastructure, improving infrastructure to create a safer road network for everyone. So that's not just the person walking down the street, it's not the person riding the bike, it's not the kid getting off the school bus, it's also the person driving around town and paying attention to everybody that could be moving here. I know you guys have big Christmas parades and big school football playoffs and so forth. That usually brings folks into town and people that maybe not know the area very well, so that's also very important too. So for ACOG, we started off with a regional safety summit in February. We did a pop-up at a Norman Farmers Market in downtown Norman. We did another one at a public library. Then we also went to Rose State College, so we're kind of spreading out throughout the region. And then we also attended a pop-up at the Old Town Moor in October, just before Halloween. What we found out over time is it's hard to sometimes get folks to come to just your event. So we like to piggyback with other people's events and join in. It's a little easier, and there's usually more people showing up to those types of things. One of the things that the consultant did that we really like, and I hope you guys are doing this too, is they created basically a map of our region, so say a map of Guthrie, and you invite your citizens to go online and point out places where you've got some issues, or it's dangerous to cross that street there, or that traffic light's crazy, or we need some more sidewalk in this area. We had that. We had over 3,000 website views of that, so we were very happy about it. And then people can actually take a human or a car and put it in the spot on the map, and then make a comment that this is a problem because. So we had a lot of written survey contributions with that, and ended up with about 564 comments. That was obviously driven by a lot of social media and a lot of interactions and giving people that information to go to that particular site. So we really thought that was fun because it's something you can do while you're sitting down watching a really bad film on the TV, and you look down at your phone for 5 minutes and you go, I'm going to check something else. Well, this is really good that you can kind of go to this and say, yeah, that road there is complicated. I think they should really look at that. So that we were very happy with this because, like I said, it's not always easy to create a public event. We did a plan event in Edmond one time. We had 10 people there with maps and all sorts of stuff, and the only thing that happened was a dog ran through the chamber, peed on the carpet, and then this lady chased the dog and chased it out of the, and that was our public event for the day, and it's like, we just put a lot of time and energy into it. So it is good to do some online stuff, and it's good to do face-to-face stuff as well. So, so this is great. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of feedback, but the next part is to put this into a report and actually report on what everybody said and what everybody wants to do. So a case study, safety efforts to date, what's been going. So your community is probably already doing some things, so that's very, very important. Engagement with the community, the safety needs of Central Oklahoma, so looking at what we like, because we're different to maybe North Texas or to Kansas or somewhere else, so we've got to kind of feel and listen to the people that we're around. Creating a safer system to move around, and then promoting a culture of safety, which is hard to do at times. So these are the crashes that we looked at with Kimberly Horn, and you guys are doing the same thing. We got crash data from 2017 through 2021. There's some fun and games going on at the state getting the most recent numbers, and they should be soon. But when we started this process, this was the cleanest data we could get. The fun part, or the bad part, is we had this COVID thing in 2020, so the numbers kind of went awry. So a lot of these crashes went down. But the fatality rate actually in 2020 wasn't very good. Reason being, there were less people on the roads, so everybody's foot got a little heavier, and they decided to drive a little faster. So when they had a wreck, it was a bad wreck. So that's something also to take into account. But top contributing factors: really follow too close, failed to yield at a stop sign, yield over a stop, and then driver inattention. A lot of that, you've seen it yourself, is folks at a stop sign maybe looking down at their phone for a second and then maybe hitting the accelerator before checking everything out around them. So rear end crashes, angle turning, and then side swipes, that sort of thing where people are just not quite paying attention. Now, given in some newer cars, we have all sorts of positive things to help us nudge us and say, you can't turn left right now, there's a person right there, or you're getting too close to someone, slow down. But not all cars have that. So given we're getting some help, but at the same time, I would still say you're meant to be paying attention yourself. So Kimberly Horn did this high injury network. So this is areas where the kind of the cream or the bad cream rises to the top. And you've really got more problems on these types of corridors. Now, the bad thing is, these corridors are only 3.3% of the total road network, so a very small amount of mileage. But look, we've got 53% of the fatal severe injuries or possible injuries on just 3% of the network. So they've really identified some of the places that are, these are red flags, and these are areas where we've got to work a little harder. They also have 63% of the fatal crashes. So yet again, we obviously need to take into account these. On this particular map, the blue lines are the Oklahoma City portion because they were done slightly differently to us, same process. And then the red lines are the ones that are outside of Oklahoma City, so throughout the whole region. Some of these are on interstates, some of these are on state highways, some of them are on just section line roads. So it's kind of a mixture. So what Kimberly Horn did, instead of looking at all these, because there's so many of them, there's over 400, what they did is they picked 8 of them and looked more specifically at those. And these were smaller segments of about a half mile or a mile long. These were the ones that they really wanted to look at. Norman, War Acres, Del Cities, Goldsby, Newcastle, that's Highway 9 next to the casino. Yukon, Moore, and Tuttle. These were some of the ones they looked at. They're looking at the ones for your community also. So specifically, what they would do is they would drill down for the corridor that they're looking at. So this is MacArthur, so it's in War Acres, and the road's at the bottom, so we've reoriented the road, so really it's north is on the left and south is on the right. So the red dots are the actual fatal crashes. The orange dots are crashes where there's a severe injury, person probably is going to make it, And then the yellow dots are more like a fender bender type accident between one car and another car. These are reported data. So sometimes if you sideswipe somebody or bump into someone in a parking lot, you may just determine to swap names and not report it to the police. These are all reported crashes. Then what Kimberly Horn then suggested for each of these crashes, they suggested solutions. So they'll be doing the same thing for your community. They'll be looking at your roadways that are the most complicated, difficult ones, and they'll be going through each, and they actually do field studies. So they'll come out and they'll walk these, and they'll take notes, they'll take pictures, and they'll look at these and they'll go, okay, well these are the suggestions. And there's different suggestions depending upon the type of problem that they might see. But you can see, but this is like a mile long, and look, there's a number of issues that they want to address. Some of them are the same, so they follow some patterns. What they're going to do for you is create a toolbox or a countermeasure toolbox that you can use moving forward. So obviously you're not going to fix all these roads in 5 minutes. It's something that you'll do over time as you find funding and as you are able to do that. So some of these items are on the right. You know, obviously this is a really big deal on the rural side. Is, for example, on the outside of state highways, you see a lot of these ridges along the side of the road to wake people back up, to stop them having a crash, in which case it's usually not a good crash. Crosswalks, bottom left, roundabouts, those are fun.
We like the roundabout.
Yes, we do.
We like the
So
roundabout.
we're starting to see more of these. All the engineers tell me it's safer, and I'll show you a diagram at the end that kind of says that. I tend to like them because you don't necessarily have to come to a stop. And I know we all have problems, and there's a policeman in the room, where we all have problems because we're meant to actually stop at that stop sign for 3 seconds. And we all have problems counting, it seems like. But signage, very important. Sometimes we have to refresh our signage because it gets a little old. One of the things that they suggested on Lindsay Street in Norman was actually trimming back some of the bushes, and that's a non-stop job. I mean, for Public Works to each year, or maybe twice a year, go out. And sometimes you can't see signs because a bush or a tree has kind of gone out in front of it. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. So this comes back to our seismic countermeasure example. That sounds very good. So when you have a four-way stop, there's 32 conflict points or 32 areas where you could have an interaction with another car and have a crash. So that's what they say when this is a four-way stop. On a roundabout, there are only 8, and they tend to be glancing. So you're not going to have a head-on crash, and you're not going to T-bone someone as much as it's going to be a glancing crash. So it's going to be a much lower incidence level or a less chance of someone getting really hurt. So they will make these suggestions. It's your choices whether you do these or not. Certain locations may work perfectly in this, and other areas you may go, no, I don't really want to do that yet. What some cities are doing, and some state highways we have in our region, is they're putting kind of an iconic centerpiece when they do a roundabout. So it could be your Guthrie signage, it could be some lights at Christmas, it could be a number of different things, but it's kind of like an iconic place where people go to the roundabout, and then it's 2 blocks after that. It's easier to maybe...
John,
Yes, sir.
when you presented this at the ACOG meeting, that was an aha moment for me, because I know that the roundabouts are a relatively new thing for us here in the
Right.
center part of the country. East Coast, I think, has had more. Europe obviously has had more. But the fact that you have 8 versus 32
Yeah.
potential opportunities to get up close and personal to another car was really a good wake-up call. Plus the fact, as you identified, that if you do have a conflict with another vehicle, it's a side swipe. It's a glancing blow, if you will,
Right.
as opposed to a head-on or T-bone.
Right.
And I think that's significant. As much as we resist change sometimes,
Yeah.
really is an eye-opener.
It is. So, I mean, Oklahoma County did one out in the middle of nowhere next to Deer Creek Schools, and it was actually a two-way stop. And so the folks going north-south had to stop, but the east-west weren't, and they were going 50 to 60 miles an hour. And if you weren't really concentrating, generally speaking, you want to look at a car coming at you probably twice, maybe 3 times, and some folks weren't. And some of the crashes on that road were very bad, so the county put in a roundabout, no crashes. Goldsby, a town of about 2,500, has now got 1 roundabout in, and they're about to put 2 more in. They're comfortable. It, like the mayor said, it's a little bit weird at first, because if you haven't been through one, you tentatively go through there a little slower, and as you kind of get more comfortable with it, and other folks get comfortable with it, it's not as bad as it at first seems. So that's helpful. So the report that they did for us, they came up with 54 policy recommendations and a number of safety emphasis areas, and you can kind of see those on the right. On the safety, it was lane departures, impaired driving, occupant protection, unsafe speeds, intersections, CMBs and work zones, motorcycles and ATVs, so we're starting to see a little bit more of folks using their ATVs and going on the main roads with those. I've seen those in Oklahoma City a fair amount. And then vulnerable road users are pedestrians in a big parking lot, or pedestrians trying to cross a main road. Speeds are interesting to look at. There's another area probably to look at, and that's access management. So that's the number of curb cuts you have on a road. Because the more curb cuts you have, the more opportunities of people bumping into each other or rear end injuries. We've seen that on May Avenue and some other built-up areas. I would say that's very possible on Division here coming into town. So some speed issues there. It takes a lot of work, but it's something that we can probably get to you in the future, and that is working with your local businesses. Sometimes they feel like you're picking on them when you say, can we take one of the entrances away? But what we find happens is you make a slightly wider entrance that's a little safer, so you don't feel like you have to rush out, and you still have the same access and sharing parking and that sort of thing. So it is possible. It takes a little bit of discussion with your businesses in order to happen. So from an evaluation standpoint, they looked at engineering, education, evaluation, equity, enforcement, and encouragement. Enforcement and encouragement is interesting. One of the things that Oklahoma City and some other cities have found out is some of the police departments aren't really happy playing the bad guy and giving everybody tickets. So one of the things that you can do is have your policeman, especially when school gets back into session, is pull someone over and have a little chat and just say, now come on, you know, we've got to slow it down. And so it's not every interaction is here's a ticket for so much money. It's more of an educational process as well. It's having, as the policeman would probably say, it's having staff to do that, though that's not always easy. But that was another suggestion that came out of discussions, was that, you know, it's got to be kind of a team process all the way from the top to the bottom to get this to work. You have a number of high accident network locations in your community that they will be looking at more carefully, and I know that you guys know, but you guys might not know. West Noble Avenue between Broadway and Academy, Noble from Poplar Street to Blake, South Division from Cleveland to Elaine, I think, Drexel Boulevard from Harrison to Springer, Academy north of University, just a small portion, and then way down the south on I-35, not your issue necessarily, it's adjacent to Seward Road in that particular area. So those are the ones that they are going to really look at carefully, but it becomes more of a community public safety issue, and education is really, really key, I think, to this. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions of Mr. Sharp?
I think you'll be really pleased with this process. It's a very it's a very positive process to look at a kind of a nasty item, but it's a real positive way of looking at it and coming up with solutions.
John, does this, doing these studies, does this put us at a region or as a community in a better competitive position for federal monies?
Two things, yes. One, you guys can directly apply to the feds for funding, and I think there's 3 funding cycles this year. Then secondly, ACOG is going to adjust its funding criteria to allow for more safety options. So they may not be $200,000 or $400,000 a shot, but some of these items may be fairly small, but it's an incremental change that you guys don't have to put up the money yourselves. We've got, on our safety funding, it's 100% funding, so you don't have to do a match. On the 80-20 funding, obviously, that's a much bigger pot, and that's where you have to come up with a match. But we're going to try and modify that this summer with discussions with our communities to try and make it so that they can obviously apply 2 different ways for funding.
Okay, very good. So right now, Oklahoma City and Guthrie are the only 2 communities that are engaged in this?
And Oklahoma City will be done probably in the spring, just about a month before you, so it's pretty close.
Okay, all right. Tracy?
I look forward to that study. Do you have an opinion on, of course, if we follow the recommendations, we will expect to see downturn in the accidents or the severity of accidents. Can you comment on how that affect the insurance?
That's
in
what
this
we're
area?
hoping. What we'd like to do, I think, is deal with some of the insurance companies to help in that education part. AAA and other folks that get into insurance, because there's some, that would definitely, I think, show a difference. I mean, I think that's an issue. You've probably seen with your housing insurance going up. Car insurance is not cheap. And that pretty much each person has got we've probably all got a grade that they have on you, and they say, okay, well, you're a C, so your insurance is going to be this. Well, you have another rank or 2 over a number of years, and you're going to go from a C down to a D or an E, and therefore your insurance rates are going to go up. So we hope to see this as a movement to lower the bills, or at least stop them from rising so high.
And that's just simply by making your information available.
Right.
But are you actively promoting that to insurance companies?
We haven't. They have. One of them did come to some of our meetings, which was helpful. So they got to listen to everybody else and hear what was going on. We've got a campaign in the region called Watch for Me, which is kind of a bike pedestrian type thing, but it also includes cars. And there's a safety type issue there that we need to deal with. We had in October, November, we showed a movie downtown Oklahoma City. I think it was 3 seconds was the movie. And we actually showed like 3 minutes of it to our board. And there was a lot of laughing because we've all we see that we've made those mistakes. We're not perfect drivers, and there's things we can do better. So it's a do better kind of speech, but I think the education side is just as important as maybe fixing some things.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
That's something I thought was really interesting when I was looking through some of the information that was in our packet, was that this particular study kind of has more the approach of like, we're human and we're going to make mistakes, so how do we minimize the impact of those, versus other approaches that are like, hey, let's make it so we never make mistakes. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
Right.
So I thought that was an interesting approach that this particular study took.
Humans make human mistakes. We're good at it, and we repeat them sometimes too. So yeah, so that's really important. It's an effort, and it's a continuous effort. We have to find ways in which we can keep coaching people up and doing a better job. I mean, I don't know how many times the discussion of the cell phone came up, but also, you know, you change the radio station or you talk to someone in the back, and those are all issues that we deal with. It's complicated.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for sharing that information with us, and we look forward to our individual community study here. I believe that there's a survey that's available as we speak right now. And I know I Actually filled it out this afternoon, and it doesn't take very much time.
No.
And we, of course, obviously look forward to reduction in accidents and tragedies.
Yes.
So, as Tracy was saying, that's the bottom line that we're all about. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Item number 5, Dan?
This is for an appointment to HPC. We currently have the one opening, which is a representative of the Planning Commission. That opened up with a recent resignation of Aaron Rooney, who was the representative from the PC, and the recommendation would be to appoint Phil Nichols.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to appoint Mr. Nichols to the Historic Preservation Commission. Item number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the Planning Commission. As you may remember, the last meeting, we had a couple appointments. This appointment would get us to our full 5 members. This mayor's nomination is for Stephen Harrison to fill the unexpired term of Aaron Rooney.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to appoint Mr. Harrison to the Planning Commission through end of March of 2026. Cameron? Item number 8, nomination for the Library Board.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is for an appointment for a library term that expired in May. Brenda Zvorskin, the nominees from Guthrie, is an active library user. Staff recommends her appointment.
Okay.
So moved.
Have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to appoint Brenda Forskin to the Guthrie Library Board through the end of May 2027. Item number 9, ordinance number 3417, update. Liz, tell us all about it.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund and joinder agreement have been updated and approved by the IRS. So the IRS requires all the members to formally adopt the new plan language. So this is what we're doing here.
Any significant changes? I didn't see anything that was
No,
listed.
no, some of the changes just provide clarification. That's all that is.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other questions? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to approve the ordinance number 3427, the update for the retirement master plan. Item number 10, declare an emergency for that ordinance. You want to expand why we need to have it as an emergency?
So the changes will go into effect on January the 1st, which is why they declare it as an emergency.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to declare emergency for that ordinance number 3417 for immediate implementation. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Item number 11, resolution number 2024, supplement to the city code of ordinance. Kim, you're taking this?
Yep. So the resolution acknowledges and will be used to notify the public of the most recent update to the code of ordinances. The last code update was in 2017, and so this brings us up to date through 2024, May of 2024.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move approval of Resolution 2024-26,
Second.
S7 and S8, supplement to the Guthrie City Code of Ordinances.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then for resolution number 2024-26, update of the city code of ordinance. Item number 12, renewal of the Country Club Santa Fe Lake. I never even knew it was called Santa Fe Lake. Lease agreement.
Yes,
Eddie?
Mayor and Council, the Santa Fe, I like to throw that in there. Prior to being known as the Country Club Lake, it was known as Santa Fe Lake. So,
All right.
a little Guthrie history there for you. The current lease agreement expires January 1, 2025, was signed into, was executed January 1 of 2000. The agreement between the city and the Guthrie Golf and Country Club essentially allows the country club to utilize the lake. They use it for recreational activities as well as irrigation at the golf course. At this time, we have looked at this. Public Works and City Engineer has identified that the lake is not a usable water source for the city. It's something, given the current climate and the drought that we've been in, we did evaluate that, take a look at it. At its deepest point, the lake is about 22 feet deep. So what you have before you today is an extended lease term. Few things that we've modified here. Excuse me. In lieu of an annual rent amount, Guthrie Golf and Country Club has agreed to cover the annual cost of the dam inspections. So previous lease agreement had a 5-year slider, and it increased each year starting at $500 and was just up to $2,500 per year in the final year of this agreement. The cost of the dam inspection this year was $2,750. So at this point, it makes more sense. We're not gaining any rental fee off of this agreement. It makes the most sense if they'll cover the cost of the inspection and the maintenance of the dam, which is required by the Oklahoma Water Resource Board. That's sufficient for what this agreement covers. A couple of other things we're working on. As you were aware, the Highway 105 expansion project, widening project, has been on the books for the last few years. We have relocated our utility, our water utility on the north side of Highway 105. Now we've got a water line on the south side of Highway 105. And we have negotiated with the country club for any necessary right-of-way that we may need on their property to come to the city at no charge as a result of this extended lease term. And then also, we are working on an agreement for the city's use of the pool in the upcoming summer. So we've got one more summer left of needing to provide an alternative to a municipally owned pool. As a reminder, the Highland Park pool is scheduled to reopen summer of 2026. So we are working on an agreement. I think we're fairly close. I feel good about having the opportunity for our residents to utilize the pool at the country club this upcoming summer. Probably will look like a joint agreement where residents are able to utilize the country club certain days and then maybe Pelican Bay on weekends or vice versa. So one thing to keep in mind with that piece of the agreement is that the country club does have to serve its members. And so this agreement intends for us to work hand in hand. We haven't finalized that yet. We do have the terms pretty well lined out, but that will be separate, as will the right-of-way conversation. Everybody will have those terms. We'll agree to those internally. There's no financial commitment outside of the city manager's authorized spending limit, so it wouldn't be something that we wouldn't be able to negotiate, just as we have in the past with Pelican Bay. So all of that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend approval of this lease agreement.
This will be 25 years again?
This will be a 40-year lease term.
40 years, okay.
So, with regard to the water in the lake being used to irrigate, are we going to put a meter on that to determine how much water
Yes.
usage?
Great question. Thank you. Sorry, did not mention that. That is something that staff brought up at the negotiation table. Yes, we're all playing this together today. What happens in 5 years when there's a completely different crew at the table? So the club has agreed that we will meter the water. We won't charge them for the water, but we will meter it, and we will have the ability, and that language is in the lease agreement, that at any point in time, if we come in and say the lake is too low, you're to cease using this, they have to do that, and they've agreed to it. So
Okay.
Cease using what?
The lake.
As a water source for.
Okay, for irrigation.
For irrigation, even recreational activities. Keep in mind, Guthrie Lake, the entire time I've been here, has been open for about 2 weeks
Right.
for recreational activities. So while it may not appear that recreational activity does, boats, jet skis, in and out, canoes, et cetera, that does put a strain on the lake, so.
And, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
You had mentioned the annual dam inspection fees. How often is maintenance done on the dam? Do we know when the last time that was done? What does that cost? Do we have those numbers? I'm sorry.
No, those are great questions. So prior to the inspection each year, there is maintenance done on the dam. We do the same thing for Guthrie and Liberty Lake. You can see it better on Guthrie Lake because you can drive by it. Liberty Lake, it's not as visible, but each year there's an annual schedule where the dam has to be cleared of any brush, overgrowth. The country club has just finished up getting all of their maintenance done. And so the dam inspections, I believe, are supposed to start tomorrow. And that will include Guthrie and Liberty as well.
But that maintenance will still be the responsibility of the country club.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
And we have not finalized the agreement to use their pool.
We have not. We have the terms and conditions in place. A few things I want to correct before we execute, but we're close.
Any other questions?
So if we approve this tonight, what does that do to that portion of the agreement?
It's contingent. Yep. So if we don't get the right of way that we need or come to an agreement on the pool, I would come back to you and say that this lease has not been approved.
Okay.
So with your motion tonight, I would ask that it be contingent upon the terms being satisfactory of the aforementioned items.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? Submit your vote, please. See the votes, unanimous approval then to approve the lease agreement with the country club for the Santa Fe Lake lease, contingent upon the two items that the city manager has identified. Item number 13, city manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I do not have a report tonight. Intend to get you a list of things going on by the end of the week via email.
Okay. Item number 14, comments from city council. Vice Mayor Aguirre.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to take the time to thank all of the citizens and the staff that came out and supported the Santa Fly-In last weekend at the Guthrie Airport. It was a huge success. We had an enormous number of kids that showed up to see Santa. Justin Skaggs from Apex is here this evening. I want to thank him for the loan of their hangar space to hold the event in. It was really nice to be able to get out of the wind this year. Last year, when we had all the kids out on the ramp, we had Santa out on the ramp, and it can be cold and windy this time of year, and so it was nice to have that windbreak for the kids to come in. I thought that it was much better organized, so I want to thank Caden Young this year for thinking about putting up the barricades, because last year we had a lot of kids like wandering around the ramp. I realize, you know, as the person who flew Santa in, it was a nerve-wracking experience for me last year as little kids are running around. It's like, do you see the propeller spinning in front of this airplane? Like, do you see that? And, you know, impulse control being what it is, I thought it was great that Caden took the initiative to put up the barricades and kind of make sure that people weren't just wandering around the ramp this year, which was a little different than last year, but I think it was a great success, and I want to thank you for that. It was fantastic, and I want to thank all of the citizens who came out to the airport and support that event, because it's an important part of our community. So, also, since this is the last council meeting before Christmas, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So, thank you, and that's all I have.
Councilman Williams?
Well, I concur with that. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. A lot of events happening recently in the city, and hearing very good reports from citizens of how things have gone. And to all the staff and to taking your line. To all the staff, thank you. And to law enforcement and keeping our city safe and making the citizens feel that. So that's been very apparent, so thank you for that.
Councilwoman Mills?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone who worked on the Victorian walks and make those possible. I know that takes a lot of work from staff and citizens, and it's a joint effort. But I thought they were great this year, as always, and it's always fun to invite people from outside of our community to come and experience Guthrie and Christmas and our beautiful lit downtown and all those things. So, also, we still have the lights in the flats, so everyone be sure to go check those out. And just, again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Councilman Guthrie?
Same, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Councilman Taylor?
If you didn't get a chance to go, the Reefs Across America was great. Sorry I did not get out to the flying at the airport. That would have been fantastic, but it lasted about an hour, hour and a half, and it was outstanding. So, and I found out some things that I did not know, so it was great to see that. And thank you, staff, I know. But I appreciate everybody, what you guys do, all of you. That's it, man.
Councilman Rock?
Yeah, I just want to say the Victorian walks the last 2 weekends were the best I've seen in years, probably ever in my time of being here in the city, and I truly mean that. So thank you to the committee that puts that on. I mean, seriously, it was magical like it's supposed to be. To me, it was inspirational. It put a fire in me again that what Guthrie is capable of. So just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Kind of as an add-on, the Wreaths Across America, they laid approximately 1,600 wreaths representing 1,600 veterans that are buried at Summit View. And this is the first year that it's been done. I think it will continue. Certainly, congratulations to Guthrie ROTC, Junior ROTC, Lieutenant Colonel Breed, who headed it up. The Legion and the VFW were involved in volunteers. But a really neat honor to veterans that are buried out at Somerville. I didn't realize we had 1,600 veterans out there. That's pretty spectacular, going all the way back to a veteran who served in the Civil War. Lots. And as everybody else has said, we've had a busy week from Santa fly-ins to the Territorial Christmas Walk. Again, a huge reason to be proud of our community, of what we do, what we come together to do. Certainly lots of people from all over the state and beyond that came in and visited and are really impressed. So thanks to all of those individuals that made it happen, worked behind the scenes, and obviously city staff that are so crucial to make that happen. Okay, item number 15, proposed executive session for purposes of discussing pending investigation claims against Spirit Wing.
Your Honor, I move that we enter into an executive session pursuant to Title 25 Oklahoma Statute, Section 307, for the purpose of discussing confidential communication between the city, its attorney, concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action against Spirit Wing Aviation LTD for the breach of the hangar ground lease agreement dated October 20th, 1998.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous decision then to move into executive session. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be gone for a little bit, but we will return. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to return out of executive session and into open session.
Your Honor, I would move that we reconvene from the executive session, noting that no action was taken.
So moved, or second, sorry.
Have a motion and a second. Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous then to move from executive session and open session. Item number 17, Spirit Wing Aviation Lease Agreement.
Director Young.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. And pursuant to our discussion in executive session, we have an item before you today to find that Spirit Wing Aviation Limited has defaulted on its obligations under the hangar ground lease agreement dated October 20th, 1998 with amendments, and direct the city manager in consultation with legal counsel to take any action determined by the city council by appropriate as a result of such default. This will constitute a termination of the original ground lease agreement.
Questions? Comments? Entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move that we terminate the ground lease agreement with Spirit Wing Aviation LTD and authorize the city manager in consultation with city attorneys to take all actions necessary to effect that termination.
Grant,
Is there a second?
Yes.
We have a motion.
Vice Mayor, just for clarification, outside counsel as well, not just city attorney?
I said city attorneys.
Okay.
I think that would include outside counsel.
Okay, just want to make sure we're clear on that.
That was
Thank you.
attorneys plural. And we have a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to move forward with the termination action of Spirit Wing Aviation Lease Agreement. Item number 18, Spirit Wing Aviation Fueling Agreement.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, same with the previous agreement. The fueling agreement just covers the fuel tanks and fuel agreement between Spirit Wing Aviation and the city of Guthrie in 1998. I will note the airport board declared unanimously to terminate this agreement as well.
Your Honor, go ahead.
Question, so that was a unanimous agreement? I thought that
There was
The
a
original ground
one-
lease agreement was a
6-1.
6-1 vote.
Okay.
This one was
Okay,
unanimous.
this was unanimous, okay?
Your Honor, I move that we terminate the fueling agreement with Spirit Wing Aviation LTD and authorize the city manager, city staff, in consultation with legal counsel to effectuate the termination of that agreement.
I second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to move forward with termination action on against Spirit Wing Aviation Fueling Agreement. That being the last item on our agenda, City Council is adjourned. If I can get my other notes here. And I call to order our Public Works Authority meeting of December 17th. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A through F. A is the approval of the Public Works Authority minutes of December 3rd. B is the approval of the fiscal year 24 budget amendment number 5. C is the approval of the RFP 2024-13 of auditing services awarded to Hinkle and Company. Item number D is to confirm City Council action payment of $8,180.70 to Myers Engineering for ADA accessible intersections and sidewalks. E is to confirm City Council action payment of $12,925 to Myers Engineering for West Side Booster Pump Replacement Project. And F is the approval of payment of $106,424.96 and the payment of $40,100.68 to Slatterly Construction for services provided to the Cotterill School Lift Project.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that the correction be made to item F. It's $40,001.68. And with that correction, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, we do have a Scrivener's error there. It is pay app 2 and 3, not 3 and 4. So apologize for that issue, but the application in your packet is correct. It's just pay app 2 and 3.
That's on item number F.
Item F, that's correct.
Okay.
Mr.
Correction.
Chairman, I would move approval of the consent agenda as corrected.
Second.
And we have a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
I'll vote for it.
See the votes. Unanimous approval to approve consent agenda items A through F with the correction on item number F as stated. Item number 3, items on the consent agenda that to be removed. There were none to be removed. Item number 4, December 2024 utility billing issue and proposed solutions. We do have an individual in present that would like to speak. Tammy Pearson.
That's me, but I'll wait to listen what you said.
Oh, okay.
Decision, I believe, is coming or works or anything.
At the present time, then you request to refrain.
Yes.
Item number 4 then, Eddie Faulkner.
Yes, Mayor and Council, just a quick recap. The December 2024 utility bill issue arose due to the failure of the base station in June 24 and subsequent delays in its replacement. Despite that base station failure, the water meters continued to meter water consumption accurately. Approximately 150 water meters were manually read and verified. The correct meter reading was input into the utility billing system. So we did go out, when we left the last meeting, crews were going to go out and manually verify the readings, the MXU identification number, and the meter identification number. All of that has taken place, excuse me, minus a few what I'll call one-off instances. We feel firm that our equipment continued to operate correctly, minus the base station. So it is easy to not recognize an increase in water consumption when you're not seeing that utility bill with actual consumption, especially during the summer months. So it is something I want to emphasize that the staff, we've all identified, the meters continue to read correctly, minus a few one-off cases that we're handling administratively. I would prefer not to discuss individual meters or water accounts during the council meeting. However, we'll let you know that staff is working on that independently. So existing policy for adjustments, as I said previously, if a water leak occurs on the customer's water service line, the only portion of the billing that will be adjusted is the sanitary sewer charge for that billing period. We've talked about that. There are several different options that you have before you tonight. Before I get too far into those, I do want to tell you proactive measures for the future. Moving forward, there will be no estimation of utility accounts. So if there's a meter that's not reading, whether it's a base station failure or a communication failure, crews will be manually filled verifying that reading. And of course, hindsight is always 20/20. Take full responsibility for this, but going forward, we'll make sure that we are manually verifying those readings. A couple of other things we've explored for proactive measures as well. We've requested a new map from our provider UTS showing us which base stations are covering which portions of the city. And then we've also requested a quote for a third base station that would provide maximum redundancy between the two base stations. And then we've also requested a quote from UTS for a handheld transponder or a drive-by system where we can actually drive down the road and collect that data without having to get out and manually read it in the event the base station has failed or if there's a communication issue that we haven't otherwise identified. So few solutions that we've talked about. One of the things that is currently in our policy, aside from the sanitary sewer adjustment portion of the bill, is major water leak adjustments. So as the policy is today, determination of a minor or major leak is verified by the city's inspector. Evidence of a local plumber verifying that a tenant had a leak or resident had a leak, showing that to the city, and then a copy of a permit to fix that leak. We then have a policy in place that allows us to reduce the water consumption down to the lowest cost of the tier rate. So we have a tiered rating system. The lowest cost is $8.72 per 1,000 gallons, and of course it raises from there. The more water you use, the higher the cost is. So having that in mind, that's what we have today. Before you, a few solutions with that existing policy, our proactive measures, and the history of how we got here. We could offer a couple of different things. First, we could look at case-by-case adjustments. We could take each of these accounts to the Finance Committee and review them individually, if that is the wish of the council. For the public's information, the Finance Committee is made up of 3 council members. So 3 council members then make that determination that comes before they make a recommendation that then comes before the full city council. Next option you could take is to offer a payment plan, looking at 6 and 12-month options. My recommendation, if we were to do that, would be at least offering the amount of time that the base station was down, so at least 6 months. If we were to do that, the average increase in the water bill would be $49.73, and again, that's on top of their regular bill. So they would have their regular bill plus $49 per month on a 6-month payment plan. A 12-month payment plan, the average increase would be $24.87. So those 2 options are there. And then finally, the council could take action to waive any difference between the estimated consumption and the actual consumption. Start fresh with our accurate reads that we have today, and then go forward in the January billing cycle, restarting with actual reads for the customers who have been impacted. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question by council?
So, Eddie, thank you for that report and explanation. So just to be clear, the citizens who were impacted by the base station that went down and we were unable to get readings for a few months, they are only being charged based on the actual water that they have used.
Yes.
Correct.
So again, minus a few one-off cases, the meter readings that have been collected have been verified to be correct. So the only way that happens is the water goes through the meter. And again, I understand it's easy to not realize the amount of consumption that you're using, or if you have a leak. We have homes that have basements and leaky toilets, things of that nature. It's real easy to miss the fact that your toilet needs to have a ring replaced in the tank, and that can generate 10 gallons of usage per hour, and it's a constant run. You could have a leak in your basement. These are cases that we deal with on a daily basis. These are conversations we have on a daily basis. So when I share these examples with you, it's not just something I'm making up. These are real-life examples that Kim can attest to, conversations that she and her staff have every day.
But staff have verified that all of the readings are accurate to this point, and so people are being charged for what they've used. That's all been verified.
So the minus a few one-off cases, what's been put into the system is actual consumption.
Okay.
That's correct.
And you had mentioned getting a quote for a third base station, as well as getting a quote for a different option that would be
Like the drive-by system.
Yes.
The
Yes.
handheld?
So we're waiting on both those quotes, and then that will come before the council to decide if we want to go with one or both of those options?
Yeah, my recommendation is going to be that we do both. Obviously, it'll be dependent upon whatever the cost is and the feasibility of that. So I believe the drive-by system, whether it's handheld or a transponder inside the vehicle, will be cost efficient. I'm not so sure about the third base station. So keep in mind, when we replaced that second base station, it was 65 grand. So I think we'll be close to six figures to put that third base station in.
Mm-hmm. And just for clarification, talking about the drive-by system, so does our system does it send notification if it's unable to read certain meters? Like, how do we identify which meters are not being read?
Yes, so we have what's called census analytics. That's the cloud portion of the database, and it lets us know when we have high consumption. It also lets us know when meters are not communicating. So when we're not getting that information into the system, there's an answer in census analytics that we can revert back to. And it's not uncommon on any given month to have 150 or so meters that we've got to go out and verify.
So it would be fairly easy then if we had a system in a vehicle that we could just drive by, we can easily identify which meters need to be read.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So when someone has a leak, forget the base station going down or anything. Mm-hmm. In a typical day-to-day, when is that customer notified by the city that they have a leak?
So the city's notification is courtesy only.
Right.
So we check the high consumption alarms on our side, and if we see that somebody's got constant flow or continuous flow, then we reach out to the customer and let them know. Whether that's a phone call or an orange tag on the door, we do everything we can to let them know, but the citizens or the residents should not rely on that solely for a leak indicator.
So when the base station went down, then that notification is out the window for those 160 users.
That's correct, because the data was not coming into the system.
So when the new base station came back online and we verified those readings, to date, have you looked to see if there's any leakage?
So minus the few cases that I've talked about, the one-offs, we've not been able to identify any leaks at this time.
So my position on this is going to be to eliminate it all and just move forward. And that's the motion I'm going to make. Obviously, council may have more questions, but that's the motion I'm putting on the table, is to just eliminate the past due and start fresh.
Second.
I have a concern with that, that I want us to just think about. That is the fiscal impact to the city, moving forward with that option. I think, Eddie, you had mentioned, I don't remember, I think you put it in here, but we're looking at potentially a cost of about $45,000.
That's correct.
If we do that. And, you know, obviously, like, this system failure, our equipment failure, was not the citizens' fault. And I don't begrudge them, you know, like, being able to just remove that. Merry Christmas to them. But my concern is, with that $45,000, I just want the citizens to understand that if the city does move forward with that proposal, obviously that there's an opportunity cost there for the city. That means that there are other things that the city will not be able to fund and not be able to do. So I think that's important just for us to consider the implications of that decision.
That happens in anything day to day we do, whether we're retaining attorneys or whatever we're doing.
Right, exactly.
So that's there.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that some of that is commercial. You're aware of that, right?
Right.
And so those commercial users skew that number. About 11,000 of it is commercial. One of it being a fairly good sized apartment complex, and it skews the number that we're talking about here. And so the number to the residents is not near that.
Right, but we also understand that, you know, like, businesses also have a place in this community as well. And they also, like, benefit from the services that the city provides, be it fixing streets or, you know, better sidewalks or another police unit for our patrol, whatever.
I know.
So-
Well, that's my motion on the table.
We have a motion and a second.
A second.
To basically go with option number 3, which was to waive the increase at a cost, as you have identified, Councilwoman, at a cost to the city of about $45,000.
But, and again,
But that's skewed with the high commercial.
It's skewed with the high commercial, but it also, there is, and I went back and forth on this, and I had a long conversation with Councilman Williams that helped me with my position drastically on this. And that is there's a lot of issues with the way it was handled from the beginning to up to the end. And so for the sake of argument on it, or the sake of finger pointing, we eliminate it and move on.
Yeah, I do wish that there had been better communication to
But there wasn't.
citizens from the get-go, and I acknowledge that.
And just from a staff perspective, Mayor, not to interrupt, I, again, want to acknowledge that, yes, hindsight's 2020. When this base station went down in June, we had no idea that it was going to be 6 months to get it back in place. And, again, no finger pointing to anybody, but we had several staff members, including myself, who were out of the office the week of billing, and had there been more communication internally, this issue would have been handled differently. And again, for that I take full responsibility, and I've provided you with our proactive measures for the future to reassure you that this will not happen again.
And it's a small price to pay for moving forward, because I think that all these issues are going to be resolved.
And clearly, the actions that the city administration has put into place clearly minimizes any kind of replication of this happening in the future. Not going to say it would never happen, but it clearly minimizes it. And I appreciate, none of us are perfect. We learned something from a number of things from the process. I think it certainly appears to me that steps have been and are being taken to give assurance that there's accurate readings and there's redundancy in the system to ensure that we've got accurate readings. Any other questions by members of the council? We have a motion and a second. Ma'am, you've heard the motion and a second. Give you a chance to speak if you'd like.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate what you have done. We didn't come here because we wanted anything free. We just wanted it done accurately. We have measured our reading for this past month, and it's like 1,900 gallons. There's no way we use 9,445 gallons. That's all we came to say, is we did not use that, and they're saying it's correct. It is not correct.
But you have to realize it's over a period of time.
Well,
We did in our house 5 months. They're saying we used it in 5 months, 47,000 gallons, and that it's correct. It's not correct.
well, but if this council moves with the
Right.
motion I made, then, and we move forward, then you'll be able to address that on the next bill cycle if something else is
Right.
awry.
Right.
And so that's why I make a point that we start fresh and move forward.
I appreciate that. I wanted to thank you for that. That's what I was wanting to say, is we didn't want anything free, but I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pearson. So we have a motion and a second. Any other? Any other?
Return to council.
I don't think he feels.
Mayor-elect Ropp is nauseous and had to step out.
Okay, all right.
He's sick.
Okay,
Okay,
so
let's
we have a
go.
motion and a second. Last opportunity for input, questions. Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous for all those present and able to vote, then to adopt option number 3, which is basically to waive the billing differences, approximate cost to the city of $45,000. Start, as Councilman Guthrie has said, start anew with this new billings session. And would ask if any of you have any concerns about your billing that you're seeing, please go to the administration and ask them to double check. This, quite honestly, went to more social media, and it didn't need to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We can solve problems here. That's why we have great administration that solves problems. And they'll work with the citizens here to make that happen. Please check your bills.
I want to apologize, Joe.
You- Understand, Tommy, administration is wide open to listen to concerns and help work with you to resolve issues. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.